Hey, how are you? Kumusta po kayo? And thanks for tuning in to another edition of Paul Presents Art. I'm Paul, and I'm going to be your guide today. And so today I brought you over to the Pale Fire Projects here in Vancouver, which is of course built on the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And we're going to go inside the gallery where there's an installation by local artist Graham Landin. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about his art and the types of things that he does. But today is a bit of a more of a different take on this exhibition because I'm going to be relying a lot on the brochure that they released. All right, so I hope you can join me and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so we're just going to go inside the gallery. And while inside the gallery, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about the artist and the installation. First of all, when you first enter the gallery, there's usually some information down there, which is like the brochure for this exhibition, which is by Graham Landin. And I'm going to tell you a bit about Graham Landin, who is a local artist. So here we go. I'm going to go situate myself kind of like near the window, and then I'm going to go like this, and so you can see a bit of a vantage point. So Graham Landin is a visual artist and carpenter who lives and works in Richmond, British Columbia, Canada. Drawing influence from classical antiquity, off-grid culture, folk art, and a variety of modernisms, Landin makes pavilions, sculptures, furniture objects, and wall reliefs. Since relocating his studio to agricultural land in 2018, he has employed a chainsaw to work swiftly at the scale of the human body. So the trees that you're seeing here are actual trees, and I think these are birch trees, maybe beech trees. I'm not really sure. I'm not an arborist, so you're going to have to sort of take my word for it. Also down there, I think it's actual real horse shit, but I'm not sure. I mean, horses are vegetarians, so it doesn't stink or anything like that. And then in the middle of the gallery are these fantastic wood carvings of a life size of a horse. And the thing about it is that this entire show revolves around the life of a horse. And what I want to do is I want to share with you the text that was written for this, because the text is actually very self-explanatory. And it will kind of like give you context in terms of why these are in the exhibition space. Also, I want you to note that these horses are actually carved from cedar wood. So there's this really beautiful aroma of cedar that permeates through the entire exhibition. And I'm just going to go and talk to you more about how this entire show came to pass by reading some excerpts from the brochure, which I have handy right here. Okay? So I'm just going to go here. And let's begin. In July, Graham Landin joined a group traveling by horseback through the northern Rocky Mountains. They departed from Gatho Creek, which runs out of the Musqueam River, about 80 kilometers from Fort Nelson, British Columbia, by air. The Gatho and Musqueam are part of a network of more than 50 pristine watersheds in the largest wilderness area in the province, which has been protected since 1998 as the Musqueam Ketchikan Management Area, also known as MMKA. Their trip was guided by Wayne Sawchuk, who was one of the primary advisors on the MMKA's establishment and operates MK Adventures to introduce people to and educate them about the territory. Now we're going to pause for a little bit and just do a little bit of a scan of this entire sculpture, because the sculptures are all, I think from what I can tell, he used a chainsaw to actually kind of do all of this carving. It's also life-sized, and you'll notice a few imperfections in the where the knot of the wood is, because like when you have a knot in the wood, it's very difficult to actually saw right through it. So it just becomes incorporated. This is a very beautiful vantage point of the two horses here. And the thing about it is that the title of this show is called Tight Spin. And there are basically I would say two protagonists here. One is the two people that are actually involved with this show, which is actually the artist, Graham Landin, and also the person, Wayne Sawchuk, who was actually Graham Landin's guide when he was going through the Northern Rocky Mountains. And Wayne had actually written something about the kind of like the premise for the show, and he called it an ode to bonus. And I'm going to read you an excerpt of that essay that he wrote because it'll make sense after I read it. And it should put context into the entire work. So I'm going to go and do that right now, okay? An ode to bonus, written by Wayne Sawchuk. I was lucky enough to partner with Bonus for more than 20 summers on the rugged trails of British Columbia's Northern Rockies, deep in the wild heart of the Muskwa-Ketchikan management area. Bonus was a catch colt, born on a Hutterite colony. We didn't know the mare was pregnant, and that spring when we spotted the colt in the pasture, it was, "Hey, Bonus!" And Bonus he became. His father, stud with peppy sand breeding, gave Bonus cow-pony quickness, and Connie, his Percheron mom, gave him the bone he needed to negotiate the mountain trails. Connie also gave Bonus a certain amount of unpredictability, at least when he was young. Powerful and quick, Connie had the annoying and dangerous quirk of cold firing at random and largely unpredictable times. Bonus died as he lived, on the trail in the mountains. One morning after he didn't come in with the rest of the herd, the wranglers found him washed up on a sandbar in the Gadaga River. He was in his mid-20s, old for a mountain saddle horse, and so a heart attack is a strong possibility. Some say easy come, easy go for a catch colt, but that wouldn't be correct. There was nothing easy about parting with such a partner, a bigger bonus than I could ever have imagined that spring day on the colony so long ago. When I first saw the show, I wasn't really sure how to sort of like gauge the entire essence of this installation. But the more I sort of like delved into the narrative behind it, the more I became sympathetic in terms of the plight of animals, because the thing about it is that humanity and animals have a very sort of like, I guess you can call it very unusual relationship, because there have been a lot of, let's say, animals are there to sort of like, as beasts of burden, for example, when you're looking at, let's say, cattle, or when you're looking at, let's say, water buffalo, or when you're looking at, let's say, horses. You know, there's been an entire history where the horse is actually just used as some form of like manual labor, like a beast of burden. You're also sort of like looking at it in terms of, let's say, monumental portrayals of heroes and people in history. Like, for example, when you look at, let's say, the portraits of Napoleon on a horse, for example. You know, you have Napoleon sort of like riding a horse. The horse tends to symbolize power. And Napoleon is a symbol of how humanity takes hold of power and uses it for their own betterment. There's always sort of this certain sort of like bridled, sort of like controlled way that we actually control the narrative and also the lives of the beasts and the animals that we tend to sort of like use for our own edification, for our own sort of like betterment. But we sometimes also forget the fact that when you actually spend time with animals, you create a relationship. You create this bond, which is kind of like the case with Bonus and with Wayne. It's a relationship over 20 years. And when you're looking at this depiction of the horse here in this installation, especially when you're looking at how close they are, how they're smelling each other, how the entire horse doesn't have any sort of like saddle or bridles, it's almost like this sense of freedom that the artist wanted to convey. And it's all life-size, it's surrounded by all of these trees, and it has this sort of like sense of melancholy about it, but at the same time also reminding us that animals have feelings. Animals are emotional beings, regardless of whether they're a cat or a dog or a fish. They still have those sort of like sense about us that makes us feel good about ourselves as human beings. And I think that's the thing that I really wanted to convey about this video that I'm making. It's kind of like an idyllic scene that's being reproduced here in the gallery. And when you're looking at this, like most depictions of horses are usually sort of like in painting or maybe sort of like as bronze statues outside, but these are made from wood. This is cedar wood. And so when you touch it, there's a certain warmth to it, which tends to sort of like makes us realize that, wood was once alive. Wood was once also something that was living, and we also use it in building our cities and building our houses, so there's a use value to it. And then you look at this depiction of two horses that are sort of like have a certain emotional bond, and there's a certain warmth to it. And the thing about it is that it's one of those things that you need to sort of like visit and sort of have a reaction to, because there's an olfactory sort of sense about how the cedar is very aromatic within the entire installation. And there's just this sort of sense of respect that this entire installation wants to convey to its audience. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it on that, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you can like, you can subscribe, you can also share it on your social media outlets. And thank you so much for joining me for this show, Graham Landin, Tight Spin at Pale Fire Projects. I'll have all that information down in the description below. And thank you so much for joining me. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. You have a great day, and I hope art informs your life. Goodbye!